Hello and welcome back to the Unboxable Unstoppable podcast. I'm Elena Turley. This is presented to you by the Soul Mama Academy, which is a place for mothers and women to connect and belong and find a soulful, ethical pathway through our lives together. So I'm excited to record this. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been moving house, and the theme of today's podcast is essentially how to find serenity when all around you is in chaos, or even if some of the things around you are in chaos. It seems like a helpful theme for not only this last couple of years, but also this season coming into, as they call it, the festive season. But of course, if your life is not festive, that can be a hard thing to say, or a big call. I've been in that place myself in certain times of my life. I have an interesting relationship with Christmas because I was brought up in a different culture. So it was a very strange experience during high school when I would be asked to sing Christmas carols about baby Jesus and all those kinds of things. And I used to find it a really strange disconnect because I didn't understand what they were about. Now I can kind of extrapolate that they're really just parables and archetypes. And, you know, I love all of that stuff for my children to celebrate, and I celebrate Christmas with them, and it's wonderful. But I will say that, you know, the whole world is not celebrating Christmas, and it's really good to remember that around this time of year. I guess one of the things I most of all wanted to talk about today was something called the Serenity Prayer. It's something that's used by 12-step programs all over the world. 12-step programs are things like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, sex and love addicts. There's a whole lot of overeaters. There's a whole lot of addictions that are treated with this system, which is called a 12-step program. And I dare say a lot of you have heard about that or seen it in movies, or maybe had somebody you know or even yourself gone through a 12-step program. And I remember there was a time when I did it for about 5 years when I was recovering from my own addictions. And, you know, I will say that addiction for me was very much a response to early life trauma. It was a way of self-medicating, I suppose, in the absence of anything better or more effective. And my addiction was, and I say was, although some will say that once an addict, always an addict. I guess it maybe depends on you personally and what you've managed to do in your life, and how you used drugs and alcohol and what you used drugs and alcohol for. For me personally, it was very much a culture. It was a way of belonging. It was a way of finding people to be around. It was a way of dulling my very intense feelings. I'm a very sensitive, empathic person, and that can be quite overwhelming when you're not equipped with the tools to handle all of that information, or perhaps don't feel supported in being that kind of person in your early life. So what happened for me was that I found this kind of tribe of people, and I use that word tentatively. I know that it's not really a tribe. It's a word that's a bit overused and understood. But I found a group of people that I felt belonging to, and I think that one of those human needs that we often, you know, we highly underrate is the need to belong. And it's something that really drives so much of our behaviour behind the scenes. You know, it's the great puppet master of our psyches. So the need to belong for me was then replaced with the belonging in a group called Narcotics Anonymous. And I had an incredible experience, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who feels they need help with addictions. A 12-step program is a really, really fascinating spiritual pathway that takes you from hopeless, potentially institutionalized, feeling, you know, at your, they often call it rock bottom. So essentially meaning when you're at your worst and you've got the least hope and potentially have lost all your friends, family, money, whatever level of that you've experienced. And it's when you don't know where to turn. is traditionally when you would turn to a 12-step program or be taken there by an institution or have them come to you if you are institutionalized yourself. So I used to voluntarily run some groups with another person inside rehabs, and that was some of the most amazing experience actually that I had during my time with NA. Now, the nature of it is it's anonymous, so I can't tell anything really a lot about the experiences of those whose stories I listened to in those meetings. But that in itself, listening to people bare their soul and tell their truth and speak in front of a room full of people in a safe space, is an incredible experience. And I remember once I took my grandmother when I was hitting a milestone of a certain number of days or months or years that I'd remained clean, meaning I'd remained drug and alcohol free. And she just, at the end of it, she was so concerned for the young people that were in there from one of the local rehabs. And she also said, everybody needs groups like this. Everybody needs a group of people they can talk honestly to. And I totally agree with that. And I now actually make it my mission to create those spaces and create those groups in the world for other people. That's what the Soul Mama Academy is. That's what a lot of the groups that I create on Facebook and communities that I build is safe spaces to explore who you are and what you're about and tell your truth. You know, we all need to. And the ability to be an authentic person and really be all of yourself is something that not all of us learned initially or had the great privilege of experiencing initially. And if you're one of those people, I would say that is a lifelong pathway. That is something that I've had to pursue. And the reason that I wanted to talk about NA a little bit today is that the Serenity Prayer is a really beautiful tool, not just for people who are recovering from addiction or in recovery, but also just to take into the world and utilize as a tool in your toolbox when things are stressful or chaotic. So the Serenity Prayer goes something like this. Now you can say at the start of the prayer, you can address it to whatever you believe is out there and bigger than yourself. It might be that you say higher power. It might be that you say universe. It might be that you say God. It might be anything that you believe is the great mysterious force behind all life, behind your life, and something you don't understand usually. So it's meant to be a great mystery to us, this concept, something bigger than us, something that is something we don't understand. That's the way that I like to think about it and talk about it. So I don't actually say a word at the beginning. If you were religious, potentially you would say God. But if you were not, maybe you from a sort of more new age spiritual background, you might say universe or higher power or spirit. If you are of perhaps another culture, you might put your own word in there. It's up to you. Okay, it's just about addressing a mysterious force that is greater than you. So you could even say Mother Nature. It really is up to you. So I actually don't put any word there. I just start the prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. There's a lot in there. And I actually don't think there's a lot of interpreting needed. It's pretty straightforward. But what I love about it is that it acknowledges that we need all three parts. We need the serenity within us, within our soul, the peace within us to accept. And acceptance is such a powerful, powerful thing. We also need courage to take action where action is required, to change the things we can. And we also need wisdom to discern which is which. And that is a massive key. The discernment, the ability to tune in and understand where to take action and where not to take action, where to move and pursue and be determined, and where to step back and make space and surrender is a massive thing. And the ability to do that is something that I think we develop all the time. And I feel that in my own life I am developing all the time, and it becomes more natural for me. But being able to put it in those terms is really helpful. And I know during times of stress, I just moved house, and during that period I noticed that I was far more reactive. I was less able to discern the difference between what I should be taking action on and what I should be leaving alone, and accepting. I was a little more outraged. I was a little more quick to upset. So there are times, when we're under stress and duress where that becomes more difficult. And those are the times where we must double down on the serenity prayer and really practice it. Those are the times when we must be as objective as possible, as accepting of help as possible, as surrendering to what is as possible, and as taking action where needed as possible. And it's a real challenge. This is not an easy thing to do. So that's my 2 cents worth for this time of year. I do think it's an amazing and powerful tool, and one that I hope that you will keep in your heart the way that I do, and use and really take a moment to understand it deeply. I do love to talk about these kinds of things that make a difference just fundamentally to the way we think and approach life, and the way we feel about our lives, and the way we intuit our pathways or when to sit still. And I hope that helps you today. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate every single one of you that takes the time to listen to these podcasts, and I ask you please to share, review, rate, leave me a comment, find me on Instagram at soulmamahub, SOULMAMAHUB. Look at the show notes, find me, tell me what you think. Please share your response with me on socials or just by email messaging me. I'd love to hear from every single one of you. Thank you so much. Go well, go gently, tread lightly. Bye for now.